Walker left the key outside to the back door of their house in the Aliamanu military reservation. That's what Jackson used to get inside. She grabbed a long, sharp kitchen knife, went upstairs where Catherine was sleeping, and stabbed her multiple times.
Channel, and thanks for being here. So the husband and wife in today's story had just moved to a tropical paradise. They were trying to start a family, and they were still in love after 11 years of marriage. Or so the wife thought. And she wouldn't find out the truth until moments before she was about to take her last breath. Catherine Renee Plotz Walker, or Kathy as many called her, was born in Albany, New York on July 22, 1976, to her parents Douglas and Joanne Plotz. Additionally, she had 3 sisters and 1 brother. Kathy graduated from Shaker High School in 1994 and furthered her education at Ricks College in Idaho and Utah State University. Kathy was a devout and active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, where she was recognized as an exemplary young women's leader. She loved to dance, listen to music, travel, watch movies, and try new restaurants. Kathy also loved animals, especially cats. On May 16, 2003, Kathy would marry a man named Michael Walker, who was a medic for the U.S. Army. During her husband's military enlistment, Kathy had lived with him in Maryland, Texas, California, and, most recently, Honolulu, Hawaii. According to the couple's friends, they were always happy and seemed like they were perfect together. To everyone they knew, Kathy and Michael had a perfect marriage, and Kathy was proud to be a military wife. She loved the life that she had built with Michael. It was 2014, and the couple had just recently moved to the Aliamanu military reservation in Honolulu. Michael worked as a medic in the nearby emergency room at Tripler Army Medical Center. After about a decade of trying for a baby together, the couple was about to start in vitro fertilization, which made Kathy very hopeful for their future. But all their hopes for the future came to a sudden halt on the morning of November 15, 2014. Michael returned back home at approximately 6 a.m. after working an overnight shift at the hospital. When he arrived home, he had walked upstairs into he and Catherine's bedroom, and there he found his 38-year-old wife lying on the floor, covered in blood. She wasn't breathing. Michael called 911, and around 6:40 a.m., the military police arrived to the home. And as they were knocking on the door, they noted that it took an entire 90 seconds for Michael to come and answer. According to the first responding officer, Michael appeared to be on the phone with his chain of command at the time. But he escorted an officer into the bedroom, where his wife Kathy was lying bloodied with a knife next to her. Catherine was pronounced dead at the scene, and she had multiple stab wounds to her neck and torso. Michael sat down in his living room to speak with a police officer, and he told this officer that he had tried to perform CPR prior to paramedics arriving, but he had been unsuccessful. The officer, however, noticed that Michael's clothes were completely clean. Now, had he given his wife CPR or even attempted to, he would have had some blood on his clothes, because the scene where Kathy had been found was a bloody mess. But the thing was that Michael had a solid alibi for the time that Kathy had been murdered. He had been at work for a 12-hour shift, and there had been many witnesses to this. Authorities also asked Michael if they could search through his phone, and he willingly gave it to them. At one point, Michael even suggested to police that maybe his wife had killed herself. However, the knife placements on her body would have made that impossible. More than 6 hours after he had found his wife murdered, the questions from investigators for Michael began to change. Police began to ask him if he had had any relationships outside of his marriage, and Michael would admit to a number of things. He admitted to many affairs during his marriage with both men and women. He also admitted to having sex with men for money. He mentioned a woman named Alisa, and Michael admitted to being a sex addict. Apparently, Michael had actually told one man whom he'd slept with that his wife had no idea that he was bisexual. "I just want to be free to live life how I want to," he had written to this man in a text message. After hearing these confessions, police began to think that maybe one of the people that Michael had slept with had it in for his wife, Kathy. So they then began to look into Michael's current and past affairs. Over the next few months, investigators went through emails and phone records. They spoke to as many of Michael's past affairs as possible, though some of these people were married, so didn't want to come forward. But police eventually narrowed down their search to one person, the woman that Michael had mentioned during their interrogation. This person was named Alisa, or Lisa Jackson. Alisa was 29 years old at the time of Catherine's murder, and she actually lived in the same neighborhood as the Walkers with her parents. Police discovered that Alisa worked at a movie theater, and she had actually been scheduled to work the day after Catherine had been killed, on November 16th. She was reported to have gone into work that day, but left shortly after, and hadn't been seen again since. It was discovered that after the murder, Alisa had actually moved to Indiana with family. But police would track her down and arrest her in April of 2015 on charges of first-degree murder. She was then extradited back to Hawaii, where she would confess to killing Catherine and tell police why she had done it. Alisa Jackson had met Michael Walker in September of 2014, and they had started an affair shortly after. Sometimes when Catherine wasn't home, Alisa would even come over the house to visit with Michael. Michael's new mistress, Alisa, had opened up to him quickly about her struggles with mental health. And then, only 2 weeks after meeting, the two began to speak about their greatest desires. This was when Michael told Alisa that his greatest desire was to be free from his wife, Kathy. However, he didn't have the money to divorce her. He also told Alisa about the $400,000 life insurance policy that he would receive if his wife died. Then Michael went and told the already mentally unstable Alisa that they could be together if his wife Kathy was out of the picture. And that's what Alisa wanted very badly, as she had quickly become obsessed with Michael. During their meetups, the pair began to plot how to get rid of Catherine, and they would speak about it in code in text messages and emails. They called each other Daddy Cakes and Baby Girl as they planned the death of Catherine. In an email sent to Michael by Alisa at the beginning of September, she asked him how serious he was about having his wife killed. Michael had replied back, "I'm dead serious." Then in October, Alisa had sent Michael a message saying, "I want you so bad, it's like a craving." Michael had written back to her, "I know, me too, if only someone was out of the way." The reply that Michael sent back to Alisa had the desired result, because within weeks, she started talking about the anticipation of the event of killing Catherine as being exhausting, and she was hungry for action. Michael told her the sooner the better. In one email conversation, Alisa talked about getting Michael's permission, assuming that meant his permission to kill his wife. Michael then gave her his permission in the following email. And on November 4th, Alisa attempted to kill Kathy. However, when she went to the home that time, the door was locked and she was unable to get in. A text conversation between Alisa and Michael followed. Michael said to her, "I need my desire taken care of soon. I'm going crazy." "I know, Daddy Cakes," Alisa replied. "I was going to, but I ran into a problem," meaning that the house was locked. "Oh, I see," he wrote back. "I can help with that." Next time, he would make sure that he left a key so that Alisa could access the house. So on November 14th, 2014, Alisa and Michael met at the gym parking lot on the military reservation. This was the usual meetup spot for them. Michael told Alisa that he wanted her to kill his wife that night, and she agreed. They both also agreed that she would make it look like a robbery gone wrong. Michael had a late shift at the hospital that night, so he knew he would have the perfect alibi. The evil pair even created a code in which Michael would text Alisa good if she was to enter the house through a window, or he would text her bad if she was to retrieve the key and go in that way. And later that day, Michael would text her bad. So Alisa arrived at the Walker's house around midnight, and she retrieved the hidden key from the backyard. Upon entering the house, she grabbed a knife from the knife block in the kitchen and walked up the stairs to where Kathy was sleeping. Alisa began stabbing Catherine several times until Catherine got up out of bed and tried to run. However, Alisa forced her back down to the floor and began stabbing her some more. Incredibly, during the attack, Alisa even asked Kathy if she forgave her, and Kathy replied yes, as she was dying. But that didn't even stop Elisa from her mission, and she continued to stab her helpless victim. After stabbing Kathy multiple times, Elisa sat down on Kathy and Michael's bed. She then waited an entire 30 minutes to make sure that Kathy had taken her last breath. She wanted to make sure there was no way she was going to get out of this alive. Once Elisa knew that Kathy was dead, she decided to go through her purse, looking through her wallet and looking at her ID, but she would end up taking nothing. So, terrible job on staging the burglary, like he said. After that, she had gone home and waited for Michael to call her, as he said he would. But Michael would never again get in contact with Elisa, now that she had taken care of his problem for him. And shortly after the deed had been done, Michael had arrived back at his house to find that his wife Kathy had been brutally stabbed and murdered. However, what was rather unusual to police and made them believe that there was more to the story was that there was no forced entry into the Walkers' home and nothing had been taken. There was, however, a light switch as well as Kathy's purse that had been found with traces of blood on them. During Elisa's confession to police, she revealed that she had been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. At the time of the murder, she had actually been off of her medication due to a lapse in health insurance. And she claimed that the entire time she had been with Michael seemed like one manic episode. So police also knew that Michael was involved with his wife Kathy's murder, but apparently he was ready to let his mistress take all the blame. I assume this was his plan the entire time. When Michael spoke with police again, he admitted that while he had multiple affairs during his marriage, he had never wanted his wife dead. That was absurd. Michael said that Elisa had completely acted on her own. He also added that she had been the one to threaten his wife's life in the past. He said it was because she wanted to be with him, but he didn't think that she would really go through with it. However, since Elisa had told police about the coded messages between her and Michael, they were able to go through text messages and find enough evidence to charge Michael for Kathy's murder.
Okay, I have a problem. Okay, I'm a sex addict. Okay. I had to deal with a freaking psycho who threatened her life.
Threaten your wife's life.
Threatened my wife's life. Because she wanted to be with me and me only. I didn't think she was going to do it.
After first suggesting she committed suicide, Mr. Walker dropped a bombshell blaming the murder on his lover, Lisa Jackson.
What did she say specifically?
I'm going to kill her so that you can be with me.
Now Elisa was facing the death penalty since the murder had been committed on federal land. So, wanting to escape being killed herself, Elisa decided to take a plea deal that had been approved by Catherine's family. In exchange, she was to testify against Michael Walker during his trial. So in December of 2015, Elisa pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and she was sentenced to 30 years in prison. And Catherine's compassionate family said that they forgave Elisa. Catherine's dad, Douglas Plotz, said, "We wholeheartedly forgive her. I want Miss Jackson to know that." Now, Michael's trial was supposed to start in mid-2016. But in 2016, before that could happen, he was court-martialed with charges of creating child-explicit images, sexual assault of a minor, and physical assault of a minor. While police had been searching through Michael's computer, during the investigation into his wife's death, they had found communications with a young boy as well as inappropriate images. In 2017, in military court, Michael was sentenced to 3 years in prison for the possession of the inappropriate child materials, and he was sentenced to 10 years for assault of a minor. Michael Walker was also convicted of prostitution after police officers had found social media sites in which he was trying to sell himself to other men. Additionally, Michael Walker was dishonorably discharged from the military. Then, in September of 2019, while serving his 10-year sentence, right before he was about to go to trial, Michael pled guilty to second-degree murder. And he admitted that the conversations he had with his mistress was why Kathy had ended up dead. In exchange for his plea deal, the death penalty was taken off the table. And Michael would end up being sentenced to 35 years in prison, 5 years more than Elisa. The judge said that she had sentenced Michael to a longer sentence than Elisa, even though she had been the one to do the killing, because Michael had been the mastermind behind it all. The judge said, "Miss Jackson wielded the knife that killed your wife, and that was a terrible, terrible deed. But it does appear to me that you were in control, that she did what she did because you wanted her to, and you knew she had mental health problems." Michael also apologized to his wife's family, and he said to them, "I love Kathy very much, and I would do anything if it could bring her back." Liar. Michael was a proven twisted liar with sickening desires that didn't just end with killing loved ones for money. Kathy's funeral service was held on Wednesday, November 26, 2014, at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Loudonville. She was then buried at the Gerald B.H. Solomon Saratoga National Cemetery. This story is absolutely shocking. I can't even imagine being married to someone for 11 years and having no idea about the disgusting and vile person they really are. Catherine never saw it coming. She didn't even know Elisa prior to the attack, or that her husband was even cheating on her in the first place.